It should be gory. Alan Ritchson's new action film wasn't violent enough for the Reacher star. Alan Ritchson rose to fame through his portrayal of Jack Reacher in Prime Video's Reacher. Now, in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, he plays Danish aristocrat Anders Lassen, who was recruited to fight the Nazis in WWII and would become one of the most decorated commandos to serve in the British forces. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, the Reacher actor described his character in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Forces as the baddest dude I've ever seen on paper in my life. This is high praise, considering his most famous role is that of Jack Reacher, an all-around badass who regularly takes down his enemies with a combination of wit, hand-to-hand combat, and marksmanship. His character, Lassen, is one of the protagonists in Guy Ritchie's latest action flick. Based on Churchill's Secret Warriors, the explosive true story of the Special Forces Desperados of WWII by Damian Lewis, the film follows a secret unit formed in the 1940s by Prime Minister Winston Churchill in order to help defeat the Nazis. Aside from Ritchson as Lassen, Henry Cavill stars as Gus March Phillips, Alex Pettyfer as Jeffrey Appleyard, Henry Golding as Freddy Alvarez, and Eiza Gonzalez as Marjorie Stewart. Ritchson's character was highly proficient with a bow and arrow, even advocating making it an official weapon of war in WWII. Alan Ritchson sees his role as a wonderful gift. When discussing his character with Teacher, Ritchson said, "It was the greatest gift I've ever received." The actor continued, "He was a giant that we are lucky was among us. When I wasn't filming Reacher, I would go with Ryan Taryn, my stunt double, to archery ranges and learn how to become an archer. I hired a dialect coach, Ray Nolan, to help develop the accent." Ritchson's commitment to doing the character justice extended beyond preparation, as on set he was fully immersed, even talking to Ritchie about making some scenes bloodier. "I came into his trailer and I said, 'Here's my perspective on the action.' Anders Lassen hated these Nazis. This was not just a dutiful soldier. He wanted to murder these guys. He didn't just want to kill him. He wanted hate kills. We should see malice in the knife. It should be gory, and we should expose innards as he cuts people. We shouldn't hide anything. It should all be in your face," Ritchson said. "I was insane." He said he would think about it. Ritchson continued, "We spent the whole day shooting the scene, and it was all very improvisational. I was thinking, what if on the way up the stairs, you see these red strands dripping with blood, and you realize Anders has hung a dude by his intestines? What about if he had a heart in his hands?" We just kept thinking of how do we make this vision come to life. The props guy couldn't get intestines in time, but we had a pig's heart. We did the best we could with what we had, but it was a blast. Alan Ritchson, known for his breakout role as the towering ex-military investigator in Reacher, has long been associated with the world of intense action and relentless violence. As the titular character in Reacher, he brought a raw, physical performance to life that captured the essence of Lee Child's famous novels. His portrayal was full of bone-crunching, knuckle-busting realism. So when it came time for Ritchson to step into another action-packed role, he naturally gravitated towards projects that promised to deliver an even more visceral and violent experience. However, according to Ritchson, his latest action film didn't meet his expectations in one crucial area: the violence. Ritchson has admitted that he signed on to his new project believing it would push the boundaries of the action genre, taking the brutality and physicality to levels that even he hadn't explored in Reacher. Yet, once on set, he realized that something was missing. "It should be gory," Ritchson commented, reflecting on the lack of violence in the film. For a man who thrived in roles requiring intense physicality, the absence of the expected level of violence was a disappointment. In fact, he argued that the lack of blood and grit was detrimental to the film's tone and overall impact. It's not just Ritchson's affinity for action that led him to expect more carnage in this film. Over the past decade, audiences have grown accustomed to increasingly violent films and television shows, with the action genre itself becoming more and more extreme. From the John Wick franchise to shows like The Punisher, modern action films have not shied away from showing graphic violence, allowing audiences to experience the raw brutality of combat. It's within this context that Ritchson believed his latest venture would be equally violent, if not more so. But instead, the toned-down violence left him feeling as though the film was missing an essential element. The shift toward hyper-realistic violence in action films speaks to a broader trend in entertainment, the desire for heightened realism. In a genre filled with larger-than-life heroes and incredible stunts, the physical toll of violence has been increasingly depicted as gruesome and unflinching. This marks a significant departure from older action films, where explosions and gunfights often seemed sanitized, and the heroes rarely walked away with more than a scratch. Today's audiences demand more from their action heroes, and it's not just about impressive choreography and daring stunts anymore. There's a real hunger for consequences, for the blood and bone of combat to be palpable on screen. And Ritchson understands this better than most. His role in Reacher pushed him to embody a man whose size, strength, and experience made him a force of nature in hand-to-hand combat. The fight scenes in Reacher were visceral and often brutal, and the show didn't hold back on showing the damage that Reacher inflicted on his opponents. It's part of what made the series such a hit with audiences. It wasn't just about watching a hero win, it was about seeing the painful, violent process of getting there. In many ways, it felt like a return to the raw, gritty action of films like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon, but with a modern twist. Ritchson's desire for more violence in his new film doesn't come from a place of wanting mindless brutality, though. He's not asking for over-the-top gore for its own sake, but rather for the kind of violence that serves the story and the characters. In his view, the physicality of a fight should mirror the stakes of the narrative. If the characters are fighting for their lives, then the violence should reflect that desperation. It's an argument for authenticity. If the action doesn't feel real, then the story itself can lose credibility. It has to feel earned, Ritchson explained. When you have characters fighting for their survival, you can't pull your punches. The audience needs to feel that intensity. Of course, this mindset raises questions about the role of violence in entertainment. While some argue that more violence leads to desensitization, others believe that when used appropriately, it can be a powerful storytelling tool. For actors like Ritchson, who commit fully to the physical demands of their roles, it's a way to immerse themselves in the world of the character. The violence is part of the character's journey, and stripping it away can feel like a disservice to the story. It's this commitment to the craft that has made Ritchson a rising star in the world of action films. His physicality and intensity have set him apart from many of his peers, and he's quickly become one of the go-to actors for roles that require a mix of strength, skill, and grit. With his towering presence and athletic build, Ritchson embodies the modern action hero in a way that feels fresh yet familiar. But as his latest film experience proves, even an actor as dedicated to the genre as Ritchson can be left wanting more when the action doesn't live up to its promise. In the end, Ritchson's frustrations with the lack of violence in his new film highlight the delicate balance that action filmmakers must strike. Too little violence, and the stakes can feel too low at too much, and it risks overwhelming the story. For Ritchson, who has built a career on playing characters who live and die by their fists, the violence isn't just about spectacle, it's about grounding the story in a brutal reality. He's made it clear that, in his opinion, the best action films don't shy away from the gore, they embrace it, using it to enhance the narrative rather than detract from it. And for fans of Ritchson's work, that's exactly the kind of action they've come to expect from him.